All right, here we are. We are live. We are back. And yes, yes, yes. So we have one of our African sisters, um, you know, a very dynamic filmmaker, amazing, talented filmmaker that has a powerful voice using this medium of film. And the film that she's brought to us this year is called MÉBÉT. And she's going to be here. She's already here in the studio anyway. I'm going to bring her in to talk about her film and talk about herself and talk about her journey as a filmmaker. And of course, before I bring her on, I'm going to play the trailer to her film. So here we go.
Dama amoon yóbbal bu neex ma bëggoon ñu waxtaan si yow ak suma baay
ku ko gis na ne mooy ndey bi la bi nga amul dog amul dogit xaw ma lu
jàng jëriñu jigéen dara ci jamono buñ nekk ni
bu ma wax nga teg ci baat
jigéen daal moo sona rek
ashhadu an la ilaha illallah ashhadu anna muhammadan rasulullah
kay ku ñaaw ki kay du mun a nekk sama xarit
ñaawa gende
lii rek laa lay ñaan man mii di sa yaay
kon bismillah leen ñi ñëw ak si
marila kon 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 waras ki tange talla jokola kon kon
Wow. Woo! Anytime I've seen this film, I don't want to tell you how many times already, but it is a gorgeous film. The costume. Anyway, before we go, here she is, our queen, has Gambia. Jama Jack. Can you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us more about this film? I have so many questions, not so many, but I would like us to talk about in this film. But just first of all, tell us who you are and how you got into filmmaking.
Absolutely. So, hi, my name is Jama Jack. I'm connecting from the Gambia. Really excited to be here, and I'm hoping my internet doesn't do a nasty one on me. So, our film is MÉBÉT. It is a film that addresses a social issue that affects quite a number of girls in Gambia, child marriages. So in the Gambia where we come from, so we had an all Gambian production team. 1 in every 3 girls is married off before she turns 18. That's like 30% of girls. And 1 in every 5 is married off before she turns 15, which is like 20% of girls. And these numbers are high. The consequences on their lives, on their education, on their dreams are things that we can't even begin to explain. And so I am a feminist activist, and I have been working on human rights issues since I was 10. And this is an area that I have done a lot of work in. And I also work in communication. So my professional background is in communications and journalism. And for me, my interest has always been about how do I bring in that intersection between media, comms, and human rights and social justice. And this is really what gave birth to the film. So I am the writer for the film. I wrote the story in 2012 as a student. And in 2018, my husband, who's the director of the film, started, that work towards adapting it into film. And we were able to shoot in 2019, and here we are. So it's a film that's really dear to my heart. It's a story that I carry everywhere with me. And I've been very, very particular also about what festivals we submit it to, just simply because of the message it carries, but also because of the mission we have for the film, which is to use it as a tool to continue the conversations people like me have been having as part of our work to engage communities to protect girls from child marriages. I'm really excited to be here.
Wow. I mean, it's so obvious from watching your film that your voice is just, oh, it's pushing all the way through. And then I'm not surprised that you have a journalism background and, activism background because, but the thing that I also like about, because you walk a delicate balance when you're trying to make a film that has social justice connotations to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be just a long, drawn out, public service announcement. It's like a presentation. But you didn't do that. You draw us into the story. You make us care for the character, the main character, and then you make us even somehow, sometimes even see the other people's point of view, the so-called people that are ignorant about what's happening or that are pushing, continuation of this so-called tradition. You just give them humanity so that we can see ourselves in them too, to say, that could be me pushing this agenda, even though it's wrong. And that's a really craft, to have and talent to have as a filmmaker, to be able to give all these characters and not just from first frame, just start bashing everybody and then till they end. And so that's the thing that I loved about your film, that you allow us to become these characters in all the sides, and then reveal to us, even when we start, sympathizing too much with the other side, all of a sudden you wake up, anyway, I can go on and on about this. But talk to us more about, the reason I'm saying that is, yes, you wrote it, but your husband directed it.
Yeah.
So what argument did you have sometimes in the way? Because as a director, anyway, you know where I'm going with that. So talk to us about that.
We had a lot of those, and I was smiling throughout your words, because at the beginning we were very deliberate about that, and I feel like this is also one of the reasons why we submitted to the Silicon Valley African Festival, because I work in this space and I'm very familiar with how we can easily push a victim narrative. We can easily push a negative portrayal of these issues without really understanding the nuances, and some of the motivations that push people. Is it always ignorance? Is it, always evil? Sometimes these people do it from a position where they feel like they are protecting the best interests of the person they are harming without really realizing that they are harming them. And so right from the start, we made a very deliberate decision to say, we are not going to control the narrative. What we are going to do is tell one story. And at the end of the story, what we want people to take away from it is a moment to just question themselves and ask, is this right? Is this normal? Should we let this continue? So that was really the motivation for us. And we were able to also fuse in a bit of the dance and the music, and the costumes, just to show that, there are so many different things that make up our communities and our identities. It's not about one story or one narrative. And so that was very, very deliberate. And every time somebody picks it up, I get really happy. I'm like, our job is done. So that journey came with quite a lot of, I wouldn't call them arguments. So it was a very collaborative process. So my husband and I doing that work, but we also brought in different people. So we looked at people who were specialized in different areas, production management, cinematography, so we brought those people so everyone could focus on what you were going to do. And right from when we developed the script, it was a collaborative effort. We were looking at it and critiquing it and looking at what could be problematic, what could be, a big issue. How do we really tell a story that humanizes people? Because we have people in our lives who are really close to us, whose stories are very similar to the story that we have told. And one of those people is the one we dedicated the film to. So we wanted to make sure that we were telling a story that did not cast judgment. We wanted to tell a story that you can easily take to a community where this practice is still happening, but the people would still be open to watching it and then having a conversation with you, where you can now try to understand their positions, they can understand what message you're bringing in, and in that dialogue, there could be a common ground. So I believe it's also, my husband's also been in the activist space, to be honest. So we have that, we have that grounding and that understanding of community engagement from a point of, respect for people's ideas and their cultures and their values, but also a lot of negotiation, a lot of convincing and persuasion that would get them to see the other side and from their own will and out of their own understanding, make a decision that actually is what we consider to be the positive one. So there were some pushes and pulls. Sometimes he puts in something and I'm like, that was not in my story, take it out. Or he takes something out from my story and I said, this is really important, you need to put it back in. But in the end, I believe we were able to tell a story that really reflected the original idea I had in 2012, but also took into consideration everything else I learned in the years that passed, right on to the point when we decided to say action.
Yes, yes, and it's such a beautiful thing, and it's interesting because this is, I keep coming back to this whole notion of our film festival that we say it's Africa through the African lens. And your film exemplifies that because you are telling it, you are the authentic voice to tell it. A foreigner might have whatever else, but they're just something that will still be missing. There is a cultural competency that is very important when somebody's handling such a very delicate thing. It's not just about what you read in the textbook. It's not about what people tell you. There's so much nuance to it. And you know, our culture is filled with nuance that makes out, you know, the essence of who we really are. And when you are in and off the culture, then you know how to bring forth all of that stuff. And so you were able to harness all of that. And you know, and so anyway, the other thing and you hinted on this, and I wanted actually to zero in on that before we close the segment, is it was such a display. Yes, I mean, you dealt with the very hard issues of, you know, but honestly, your film was just a beautiful visual language to see the display of colors and our culture and the costuming. Oh my gosh, you know, it was a tour de force, you know, when they were getting ready for the marriage or whatever was happening, you just saw these regal outfits and the patterns and the quality. I mean, it was like every outfit was like worth $1 million, you know, but you know, not only were the outfits, but the way you photographed the outfits. And I think, you know, so talk to me about, you know, why that was important as well to present the dance and all of that, because you could have easily told it as a very straightforward, sterile, you know, stuff.
So like I said, it was very important for us that we do not continue the single narrative. So we have the privilege to be able to tell stories via film, even though this was a really, really, really low budget film, like really low budget. We paid for it ourselves, right? So it's like our fish money that we used to make the film. And we were, I mean, I think one of the things that we all understood right from the start, that's all of the team, is that we did not want to continue that single narrative of what Africa was and what Gambia was. And we also understand we're talking about a really hard issue. We're talking about a critical issue. We're talking about something that has taken the lives or stolen, you know, the lives and the dreams of so many girls and young women. But that is one aspect of who we are. When we talk about our cultures, and the reason also is because usually when the narrative about child marriage is told, it is told from a perspective of, oh, it's a cultural practice, it's a religious practice, it's something that those ignorant Africans do. But that is only one aspect of what we do. So for us, it's about creating a balance. We show what is wrong with our culture, but we also show what is right with our culture, because we always have this conversation around, one of the discussions you have with child marriage is like, we're not going to let it go. It's our culture. And what we try to say is we have really positive aspects of our culture that we can hold on to and we can promote and we can show to the world, while we also try to let go of the harmful parts of that culture. So for us, like I said, we did not want to cast any judgment. We did not want to sway anyone towards any position. We really just wanted to present a reality. And the reality is that there are so many different facets to who we are. There's so many different facets to our identity, our expressions. And even in Gambia alone, from community to community, there's so many differences. You can't even tell one story of the Gambia. So that is why we invested in showing that aspect as well. Because even when child marriage happens, that element of the culture comes in. The ceremony comes in, the singing comes in, the griot culture comes in, the dancing, the cooking, the community. So we wanted to show the power of community in this reality, but also how we can use that same power of community to turn the tides and make sure we're adopting positive norms and positive values, and that girls don't have to, let go of their dreams just to fulfill a cultural practice. So, I mean, a lot of thinking went into
Wow.
that, and in the end, in the end, we were able to tell. I mean, we would have done so much better if we had the funds to do like what we really wanted to do. But I think we were able to strike a very fair balance that did not, castigate anyone, that did not make excuses for what was happening, but also found a way to promote aspects of our culture that we feel we can hold on to as an alternative to the harm that we usually cause. Yeah.
Well, listen, anyway, we have so many people watching and listening, and we're going to, streaming this. We're going to even repeat the stream as well. But, we are going to get your information out there because,
Thank you.
as people are seeing and observing already, you can speak to this issue, from all dimensions. And I'm sure we're going to, after COVID, we're going to figure out a way to get you out here to talk, to present, and do all of that stuff, because and also connect you with other organizations that are working on same or similar issues. And because you are a powerful voice that can actually talk about this, and not only talk about this, but guide and provide context for this type of stuff. And so I just want to thank you for blessing us with your film and what you stand for and all of that. So stay plugged in with us, and we're going to make sure whatever ways we can keep supporting the process. That's fantastic. And so thank you again. You're getting a lot of love, and thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. This is really what we wanted to do with the film. I mean, we did a pilot where we screened it in 5 schools and showed it to students, including a school for the deaf, where they just read the subtitles and were following the film. And the reactions always keep me in tears. And I'm like, wow, this is what we want to do, because it's the next generation we're influencing. They're starting to think about these issues and about what decisions they can take when they have power. So plug us in. Thank you.
Yes, fantastic. Wow, this is phenomenal. And so thank you once again, and thank you to everyone who is out there following us. Before we sign off and end the broadcast, I'm going to play the trailer one more time so that it gets into people's heads, and then we're going to close out. But thank you, Jama Jack, for joining us all the way from Gambia and blessing us with your beautiful film, MÉBÉT. And
Thank you.
so, thank you. And here is the trailer to this film, and we are going to sign off right after that.
yaa boy dama amoon yóbbal bu neex ma bëggoon ñu waxtaan si yow ak suma baay.
ku ko gis nga ne mooy ndey bi la bi nga amul dog amul dogit xaw ma lu yaakaar loolu
jàng jëriñu jigéen dara ci jamono buñ nekk ni
bu ma wax nga teg ci baat
jigéen daal moo sonna rek
ashhadu an la ilaha illallah ashhadu anna muhammadan rasulullah
kañ ku ñaaw ci kañ du mun a nekk sama xarit
ñaawa gën de
lii rek laa lay ñaan man mii di sa yaay.
kon bismillah leen ngeen ñëw ak si
Marila, con, waras, kitange, tange, tala, jokola, jokola.